welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up on the show this evening, including that political exchange in Karnataka over the fare hike in buses. But first, let's take you through the top headlines we're tracking this hour. Actor Allu Arjun is granted regular bail by a Hyderabad court as anticipated. The actor was on a 4-week bail granted by the Telangana High Court. A war of words between the Prime Minister and Arvind Kejriwal after the Prime Minister declared AAP a disaster at a public meeting in Delhi. Kejriwal hits back and says the AAP is a blessing and not a disaster. India confirms that it has received an extradition request from Bangladesh for ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India. What next in this delicate diplomatic dance between Delhi and Dhaka? Season's worst fog disrupts flights in the north. Nearly 250 departures delayed in Delhi. Flight operations in Amritsar, Chandigarh and Guwahati also affected. It's likely to have a domino effect across the country. First up to breaking news coming in at the moment from Hyderabad. We believe the Anti-Corruption Bureau in Hyderabad, which is investigating the K.T. Ramarao case, has summoned him to appear before it on the 6th of January. The ACB summons BRS leader and former minister K.T. Ramarao in the Formula E controversy. That's the news that's coming in from Hyderabad on a day when actor Allu Arjun has also been granted bail by a Hyderabad court in the Sandhya Theatre Stampede case. The actor, remember, is out on a 4-week bail granted by the Telangana High Court after he moved it to quash the FIR against him soon after his arrest. Uma Sudhir, my colleague who's been tracking both these developments closely, joins us live from Hyderabad. Uma, first to the K.T. Ramarao Formula E controversy, the ACB summons. Obviously, the BRS would seek legal recourse. That would be a politically important case to watch out for in Telangana.
Yes, indeed. So both the Anti-Corruption Bureau as well as the Enforcement Directorate have booked cases now in the Formula E matter, and the same kind of sections that were there. Some of them were similar and some of them were dissimilar. Of course, unauthorized payment of almost 55 crore rupees was the allegation at a time when the HMDA was not even part of the tripartite agreement. Of course, the ED is looking at PMLA regulations or whether there were any violations to PMLA and to the Foreign Exchange Maintenance Act. So, Mr. K.T. Ramarao has to appear before the Anti-Corruption Bureau on the 6th of January. Remember, he's also been summoned by the Enforcement Directorate to appear before them on the 7th of January. Earlier, we had Mr. Arvind Kumar, Special Chief Secretary, who was summoned on the 2nd of January, and BLN Reddy, A3 in the same case, summoned on 3rd of January, and both of them had sought time till after Pongal or Sankranti, which would have been after the 15th of January, but they have been asked to now appear on the 8th and 9th of this month, and therefore you will have K.T. Ramarao, if he does not seek time once again from either of these investigating agencies, appearing on the 7th of January before the ACB, 8th of January before the Enforcement Directorate, and the two others accused in the case, A2 and A3, appearing on Jan 8 and on Jan 9 as well. In the other case, of course, of Allu Arjun,
right,
the court, the Metropolitan Court, the Nampalli's Criminal Court's trial court, has in fact granted him bail on condition that he appear before the Chikkarpalli police, who is the station house officer, every Sunday between 10 and 1 p.m. for the next 2 months or till the charge sheet is filed. Of course, sureties of 2 people and 50,000 personal bond, and no permission to travel out of the country. Back to you, Veera.
Right. Thanks very much there, Uma Sudhir, for all the latest. Of course, the Allu Arjun case was anticipated. The more important one is that of K.T. Ramarao, which is likely to become a political flashpoint in that state. We'll keep a close watch on that with Uma Sudhir. But now to our special focus this evening, the political exchange in Karnataka over the 15% bus fare hike in the state. While the government argues that the hike was essential, keeping in mind the financials of road transport corporations, the opposition BJP took to protest and argued that the fare hikes were a consequence of mismanagement of the state's finances. The decision on Thursday by the Karnataka cabinet will bring in 784 crore annually to the RTCs, and the government's argument is that the fare hike was essential, keeping in mind both the fact that it has not been done for over a decade in most RTCs and 5 years in BMTC, and inflation and price rises was resulting in losses for the road transport corporations. The opposition parties' accusations that the state's welfare guarantees, including the free bus ride for women, is leading to financial pressures, and the burden for it is being transferred on to the citizens. Let's just listen in to some reactions from the people before we get into our deep dive discussion this evening.
They are the actual looters. See, this is, I'll send you between 2008 and 13, Mr. Ashok was transport minister. 30% he raised. Totally 6 times. 30%. 30% he raised 7 times. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times he raised.
They're telling ladies free, wife free, husband double. Means what? I think this two-blade Siddaramaiah, two-blade government, this is common sense. Every people will know this is the double to husband means they have to pay, the entire house have to pay. People are scolding this government. People are scolding Siddaramaiah. He is the worst CM never seen in the Karnataka history.
The government has hiked the bus fare by 15% here in Karnataka across all platforms, whether it is ordinary buses or deluxe or premium buses. 15% more will be charged across all platforms, but it will be free for women. Now you will have to pay 15% more. What you have to say?
It is not fair. So hiking of 15% of the ticket, is it not? So when you give free ticket for the ladies, so they have to concern for the gents also.
But what they are saying that the diesel price has gone up, and for the last 5 years price was not high. There was no hike. That's why it has been raised now.
It's all in the government's hand, is it not? So we cannot say we cannot depend upon the petrol or diesel hike. When the government decides, so they can do anything.
So the reaction is that the daily commuters, they want that the price should be reduced because they are not willing to pay 15% more because there is a price rise almost everywhere. But the government is saying that they have no choice. For the last 5 years, price has not been, the fare was not high, there was no hike in the fare. So now they have no choice but to hike the fare, and that is why 15% fare has been raised. From 5th of this month, they will have to pay 15% more, whether they are traveling by an ordinary bus or deluxe bus, or they are traveling by premium buses. With camera person Kumar, Nehal Kidwai for NDTV.
Well, so the question this evening, is this just a just and fair fare hike, or is it a consequence of expenditure on the state's welfare schemes and financial mismanagement as alleged by the opposition? Joining me this evening is respected economist and public policy expert Professor Narendra Pani. We will also have a political face-off with the BJP's Lakshmi Ashwin Gowda and Congress MLC Nagaraju Yadav, who was a former BMTC chairman. But before we get to the political face-off, I'd like to get to the economist on the panel and have a clarity on the numbers. Professor Pani, the insinuation is that the welfare guarantees is costing the state government so much, resulting not just in this bus fare hike, but overall financial pressures on the state government, which is affecting several other sectors, and the burden of it is being transferred on to the citizens. Is that argument justified?
No, I don't think so, really, because it is the purpose of government expenditure. It cannot be confined to just a growth number. it depends upon what that growth does. If, as has happened in India and particularly in Karnataka, that growth is skewed and large sections don't benefit from it, then it becomes important for the government to transfer the resources, at least some of it, to the people who are hurt by a process of rapid growth. You cannot allow the growth rate to camouflage a much more serious problem of resources that are skewed distribution of resources. It is important to keep in mind that this is not just a welfare issue. It is also a growth issue, because if, as is happening now, you have a skewed distribution of resources, it will affect demand. And we are beginning to see this on a national scale. But Karnataka is a state that has a particularly skewed distribution, because the sectors that provide the growth are not the ones that grow. So there is an issue of growth also. And if I may just add one more element, since you brought up the issue of women getting a free ride. One of the sort of skewness within the growth that we have seen is that women are not getting employed on the scale that you would expect. As a result of which, there's a need to make them more employable. There's a need to get them out of their homes, and a subsidy in bus transport. I would see it in a growth perspective and not just a welfare one.
Okay, even as you make that point emphatically, sir, the question is that are these welfare schemes in perpetuity okay for the state's finances, or should there be a revisiting of it sans the political pressures and to have perhaps a recalibration of it? That's another argument that's been made.
See, my view is essentially that the purpose of all development is to make some basic services available to the people at as low a price as possible. This is the purpose of all development. If you're going to have very high growth rates and people cannot afford the basics, whether it is food, transport, or education, then there really is no purpose in growing, right? And this will have its impact on growth, because a working class of workers who are not equipped to carry out work because cannot afford an education, they cannot afford the exposure of travel, is not going to help you develop or increase your own growth rate. And we are beginning to feel these pressures. In fact, you're talking now of a substantial chunk of women who are not employable according to industries, though they have education and other such qualification.
Right, so there are nuanced economic realities that one needs to keep in mind. Thanks very much, Professor Pani. I'd like to get into the political face-off at the moment. Dr. Lakshmi Ashwin Gowda, you heard Professor Pani there. There is a rationale for the welfare guarantees, and every time there is a price hike, the target is on the welfare guarantees that are promised by the Karnataka government. The price hike or fare hike on buses, the government argues, is primarily because of inflation and an adjustment in terms which is normal whether there was welfare guarantees or not. How do you see this? You'll have to unmute yourself, ma'am. You'll have to unmute yourself, ma'am.
The Congress government stand, any attempt of Congress government to increase 15% hike in the bus fare is totally illogical, myopic and unscientific. Why it is so? Because they have promised free ride to the women of all the households, and at the same time they've increased the price. And this will definitely be a burden on the men and on a family, and it is double jeopardy for the men. And it is, in a way, it is a cross-subsidization within the family, looting the family. It's just like as good as not giving any freebie at all. On the one hand, giving a freebie and pampering the women by giving them free rides. On the other hand, increasing the bus fare. It's totally unfair. It is quite farcical. In less than a year since they come to the power, they've lost the they've lost the popularity, as a result of which they started looting the people. Their development has always taken a backseat in their administration, and the welfare of the people, they've totally forgotten the welfare of the people. Now they're doing all these dramas since they're very much aware of the fact that they've lost the popular support and they don't come to the power again. They started looting the people. It is totally unfair. We strictly condemn this. It is by giving them unscientific, the most fractured freebies, and the other hand, increasing the price rise in the name of filling the operational costs and all. Why didn't they give enough resources to the freebies? In a way, they're trying to collect from the same household. It is as good as giving them
the argument
double
of the
burden.
BJP is that the wife travels free, the husband is paying double the money.
Double, it is double jeopardy for the men.
No, Lakshmi ji, anyway, wish you all the panelists and you happy New Year. Let me put things in a perspective, because I worked in the organization as the BMTC chairman, and I think the Lakshmi madam has got the entire concept wrong on a wrong foot. Today, I'm telling you, the economist was talking about it, how it is helpful for a woman to empower them. And today, after the guarantees installment in the Karnataka state, the GDP growth has gone to more than 10.2%. She must be knowing the economics of the state. How is it called? It is not told by me. It is told by the government of India itself. The Karnataka is one of the progressive states. And now coming to the point of this discussion of this one is, the guarantees are nowhere connected to this high price hike of this much. For example, I'm telling you, in the guarantees, 3.0 ticket was given to the women was between the April 1st to November 30th. It was 3,951 crores where that zero ticket is given. The compensation given by the government for this is 3,343 crore rupees given by the government of Karnataka. You think that the government of Karnataka has misread the concept of this one? We are paid back to the government of to the corporation which you need. I, being the BMTC chairman, 2014 was the last when we increased the ticket price as such. What is government of India, who the BJP spokesman should answer me that? Why are they not excluding the VAT of a diesel which is used for a public transport? I'm not telling the entire VAT to be wiped out from the diesel prices. At least for public transport, a government public
Lakshmi
transport,
Gowda, respond to Nagaraju Yadav.
Why can't they exempt that one? We'll reduce 50% of the existing cost itself. And
He's
today
asking
the
a
BJP is
question.
only making the politics out of it, rather understanding empowerment of a woman should be the concern for the people of Karnataka and people of the country.
Let her respond,
And the BJP
Nagaraju
is
Yadav.
completely
Let
against
Lakshmi
women
Gowda
empowering
respond.
women.
He's asking a question on why the prices of diesel and
As a
petrol
part
cannot
of
be
him,
reduced, especially because of public transport.
As a part of him, increase in the price rise, increase the diesel price, they are not the political component. They are a result of many domestic and international phenomenon. If the Karnataka government is really willing in a welfareism, they could have definitely bore the costs, operational costs of the buses, operational costs of the transportation. Since they are willing to give, since they are trying to empower women by giving them free rides through the Shakti scheme, why can't they fill in the operational costs? Why do they try to burden the same family and the same women will get affected? It's not that empowering them; it is double jeopardy to both the men and the women as they are trying
Nagaraju
to
Yadav, go
snatch
ahead.
away. As they are trying to
One thing,
burden
Lakshmi
them
madam is
financially.
due respect,
It is
you being a
totally
woman,
cross-subsidization. It is called cross-subsidization.
Lakshmi
By
Gowda, 1 minute.
giving free rides to
Madam, 1 minute,
women
please.
and
Madam, 1
paying
minute.
double to the men.
Wait, Lakshmi Gowda, let
It is not
Nagaraju Yadav
fair.
make his point.
Please
How do they even justify
Lakshmi ji,
this?
please wait. It's
How
my
do they
time
even
now.
justify
All that
this?
I want to
They are
tell
not
that
the
is that
political
she being a
components.
woman,
They are the
she
result of
doesn't
domestic and
understand the problem of the
phenomenon.
women. Is
Why
the
do
real
you-
concern of it. What I was trying to say is, government of Karnataka made a budget of 3.71 lakh crore rupees budget. In that we kept 1.2 lakh crore rupees for development. In that we kept 52,000 rupees for the guarantees as such. We thought it was a completely planned program as such. And we are telling the sustainability of an organization, STU, is most important concern. We have only used for a maintenance cost, we asked, because we have to give 7th pay commission to the employees. 1 lakh employees working in the 4 corporations in the Karnataka state as in the transport sector. And I'm also telling you the diesel price is so much hiked by the government of India in the name of tax. Why don't you, at least for public transport, why don't you reduce as such? You wanted to run the organization in a better
Lakshmi
fashion.
Gowda,
You should
is
know
our welfare
BMTC
guarantees
and
being
Karnataka
made a
transport is one of
target
the
for
finest
political
transport
reasons?
compared
That's
to
my final
Maharashtra or
question
any
to
other
you.
state. No.
It's
One
as
more
good
thing,
as not
sir.
giving any freebies itself. It's as good
It is
as not giving
it is not
freebies to the
freebie,
people
and
of
do not take these
Karnataka.
guarantees as
Since they are
freebies
trying to
because
loot
it's not
the
freebies
people,
at all.
and
Every
it's a
person in the
daylight
country are
robbery.
paying the GST,
It is a
and we are
daylight
giving the
robbery.
GST
It
money
is
back
no
to the people. You should
subsidization.
understand, Lakshmi
It is a
Madam ji.
household
Lakshmi
will
Madam ji,
get
understand.
affected.
Don't
If
call
they
the
really
people
want to
freebie and
empower
insult the
women,
poor people of
they
the
should
country.
take it back.
Do not insult the poor
They should
people.
take it
If
back.
you
Okay,
insult what you have
hang
done
on,
to
hang on,
the
hang
poor
on.
people
We
of
have
that.
just 1 minute left. If both of you are going to speak over each other, no one's going to be heard. Very quickly,
I
20
need the last
seconds.
commentary.
Lakshmi Gowda, my question. Are welfare guarantees being targeted for political reasons?
If they're really intending to give welfare guarantee schemes, let them give. And people, poorest of the poor people are getting benefited. But why do they want to cross-subsidize? Why do they want to burden the men in the same
Nagaraju
household?
Yadav,
It's as good
have
as not
welfare
giving any
guarantees
freebies at
also
all.
caused a burden on the
It is not
exchequer,
as good as not
resulting in
giving any
problems for
freebies at
other
all.
sectors? Very quick response.
Correct.
We have just 10
not
seconds left.
burden the 100% government, 100% guarantees are not burden the government at all. It is a welfare scheme given, and it's not a freebie at all. It is completely a GST paid by the poorest of the poor of this people in this country, and we are giving back with the tax paid by them only.
All
It's
right.
given back. Government is not giving anything as
All right,
freebies
both
as
of you
that.
have made
Please
your
not insult
points
the poor people
emphatically.
and the
Thanks very
transport of
much. I
Karnataka.
just need to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Nagaraju Yadav, but we're completely out of time. Both of you have made your points. Thanks very much for joining us in this conversation. Remember, there are nuanced economic realities beneath that political arguments that have been made. We'll keep a close watch of those, but that's all we have time for on the Southern View this evening. News and updates continue right here on NDTV. Thanks for watching.